I was training 6 days a week, doing more cardio than I had ever done before, and I was getting fatter on the job as a firefighter. And the worst part was I thought I just didn't want it bad enough and that I was soft. Like those guys who were in shape obviously had something that I didn't have. But the truth was, it wasn't about that at all. And if you've been grinding, quitting, and getting nowhere, it's not about you either. The problem is the system you've been handed that was never built for the job. What I figured out changed everything, and I'm proud to say that I got in the best shape of my life in just 3 months with the right effort. And the crazy part is that it's more simple than anything I had ever tried before. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly how you can burn fat effortlessly as a firefighter, and you can start to see the results in as little as 1 week. So let me walk you through exactly what that strategy is, and I'm gonna break it down into 3 simple steps that you need to know to have the fat fall off of you so fast that people are going to accuse you of being on Ozempic. But here's the thing, you need to do all of them or it's not going to work. It is going to be simple, but there aren't going to be any shortcuts if you're going to make this happen. So with that being said, let's start with the first step, which is about how much you weightlift. The first problem that we need to discuss is how many days you're actually training and how much you actually get to recover. When I first got into the fire service, I personally felt like my body and my energy were fighting me constantly. And what I didn't understand at the time was that my body only responds to signals, and the signals that I was getting from the fire service lifestyle were telling it to hold on to fat, break down muscle, and conserve energy at all costs. Throw in mandatory overtime and station food and the stress of just trying to manage a life outside the fire service, it all starts to add up. And by the time I even got to thinking about working out, my body was already running on empty. When I was on the job, I hit a point where I was trying to train 5 or 6 days a week, and I was putting in serious work, like I added more cardio because that is what you're supposed to do when the weight isn't moving. But that was actually the biggest mistake I was making. What I didn't understand at the time was that every single one of those extra sessions was just adding more stress to a body that was already maxed out. I wasn't building fitness. I was pouring gasoline on a fire and wondering why I couldn't put it out. So here is the solution to the first problem, which was that I never took my recovery seriously. The moment things started to change for me was when I stopped adding and I started removing. I pulled back to 2 strength training sessions a week. I made my workouts around 10 compound movements, 5 for each day that focused on full body strength and mobility. And the craziest part was that each day only took 45 minutes to complete. We're talking exercises like shoulder press, single leg squats, or lunges, pull-ups, and single leg deadlifts. And here's the thing, at first it felt wrong, but within 1 week, my energy started coming back. The weight started moving down, and I got stronger than I had ever been before in my life. The thing that we need to remember is that your body isn't broken, it's just overloaded, and recovery is going to be the force multiplier to pull you out. So lesson number 1 is this: focus on 2 high quality lifting days. And when you do this, it will allow you to put more effort into recovery so that you can have a routine that is actually sustainable and allows you to come back stronger every single time. All right, now we're going to discuss the second point, which cannot be ignored because it will account for 90% of your progress in burning off fat quickly. We have to talk about your nutrition, but we're going to cut through the noise and make it practical for the fire service. Here's the thing, the way that most firefighters approach nutrition is all or nothing. Like, have you ever met an all or nothing fireman before? And it always ends up the same way. The real problem isn't a lack of information, it's too much information. Well, you got keto, carnivore, intermittent fasting, macro tracking, calorie cycling. What should you even choose? And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you do end up picking something. Usually it's a pretty extreme approach and it doesn't last. But why does that even happen in the first place? Because life happens. A rough shift happens. You're exhausted and the guys are ordering pizza because you've got nothing prepped. And then you eat the pizza and then something in your head says you already blew it. So you might as well keep going. And this continues even when you get off shift. That cycle is not a character flaw. It's what happens when the strategy doesn't fit the life that you have. And I did this more times than I want to admit. I lock in for 2 weeks, really strict, feeling really good about it. And then all of a sudden I'd have a brutal stretch of shifts. And then one bad meal turned into one bad week, turned into one bad month, and so on and so forth. And then I'd start over again, feeling like I'd failed again. But eventually I realized that the problem wasn't my discipline. The problem was that I was trying to be perfect in a job that revolves around chaos. So here's the second lesson. What worked for my workouts also worked for my diet, which means simplify and eliminate. I stopped trying to follow a perfect plan and started building flexible habits I could actually maintain through a bad week or a missed meal and a rough shift. So look, the numbers aren't complicated, so let's cover them really quick. And don't worry, if you passed fourth grade math, you can do this. I'm assuming you can if you passed your written exam. All right, so here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take your goal body weight in pounds and multiply it by 12 to 13. That is your range. That's roughly how many calories you need to eat to lose fat. Then you're gonna aim to get 0.75 grams of protein per pound of that same goal body weight every single day. And that's it. And if you're doing the math, then you're probably realizing this is more calories and less protein than you've ever been told to eat. And it should be. The goal is not to starve yourself for 2 weeks at a time. It is to have sustainable progress over the long haul and to be flexible inside of chaos. And if you need proof of this, when I started approaching my diet this way, I lost 25 pounds in just 90 days. So let's make this clear. Lesson number 2 is this. Only focus on your calories and your protein for nutrition. Everything else is just noise. So we've simplified the training and the nutrition, but there's one more piece that we have to cover that is always overlooked, and it requires 0 equipment, 0 gym time, and you can do it on shift. And honestly, if you add this into the first 2 steps, the fat is gonna start sliding off of your body for good. So let's talk about step number 3, which is walking. When I was in the fire service, I thought it was all about the cardio. We're talking HIIT workouts, gear workouts, assault bikes. Really, the idea was I need to burn as many calories as possible. But what would end up happening was I would grind through it and then burn out. Or I would just end up skipping it altogether because it was awful. And neither one of those options works out. But here's what I didn't understand. For fat loss, walking is more effective than cardio for firefighters. And it's not because it burns more calories, but it's because your body cannot burn fat at higher heart rates. When you're doing cardio, your body needs the energy fast, which means glucose stored in your muscles, not fat. So what ends up happening is you lose muscle tissue instead, which is what you see in long distance running. If we want to burn off fat, well, then we need to work with how the body metabolizes energy. We can look at one of my clients, Kyle, who came to me working out 6 or 7 days a week. We're talking HIIT training, heavy lifts. He was even going as far as waking up before every shift at 4:30 in the morning to get his sessions in. By this time, he had completely stalled out. The weight had stopped moving for over a year, and his body was so beaten up and so overloaded that he actually got injured on shift. He pushed his body too hard for too long, and he had to take 3 months off from working. When he came to me, we stripped everything back. We replaced all of the HIIT training with walking. We started down to 2 days per week for workouts, and we used the simple nutrition system that I showed you earlier. And his result was losing 40 pounds in the next 3 months. He did this with less work because we stopped fighting his body and started working with it instead. All right, Robbie, so how much should I be walking then? Like everything else in this video, it's simple. So just aim for 10 to 12,000 steps per day. And you can do this by walking around the station and at home, and then planning one 30-minute walk on a treadmill on top of that. Or even better, go outside. And here's the thing, it won't feel like enough. And that's the point. It's supposed to be sustainable. Sustainable is what actually works on a shift schedule as a firefighter. The goal isn't to feel destroyed and tired. The goal is to feel good enough to show up again tomorrow. So let's be clear. Lesson number 3 is stop doing cardio for fat loss and start walking more to burn fat off of your body like you've never experienced before. All right, let's bring it all together. Your body isn't broken. You've just been using tools that weren't built for the fire service. Put your recovery first, simplify your nutrition, and move your body in a way that works with your schedule instead of wrecking it. Those 3 things done consistently will get you further than any other complicated strategy ever will. So now you have the information, but if it were just about that, then you probably would have done it by now. It's never about the information. It's about the implementation and the follow through. Personally, we've coached over 1,000 firefighters to burn 30 pounds of fat in their first 16 weeks. And for all of them, it was about having a coach in their corner to do it. And not just any coach, but one that actually has been boots on the ground as firefighters themselves. If you're ready to stop guessing and work with a coach who actually understands this job, we do one-on-one fitness coaching built specifically for firefighters. The link is going to be in the description. You can click on it, schedule a call to talk with us, and we'll find out if it's a good fit. Now, if you want to know more about the only lift split that actually works for firefighters, then check out this video I have right here. Remember, being in shape is part of the uniform. I'll see you in the next one.